spins and it goes solid, then we're live. Well, we are now live every Friday at 11 a.m. This is 360 Performance. I'm your host, Lowell Whiteman. Some know me as Coach. Others can call me Doctor. But today it's just, you know, whatever fits, I guess. I'm in a little bit of a state of kind of flux. After the shootings this week, we're going to give honor and respect to those who lost their lives in the King Soopers shooting in Boulder, Colorado. I spent a lot of time in that King Soopers over the years as a coach and educator at Fairview High School. One of the victims was the father of a student of mine, Erica Mahoney. Her father was taken from us. In addition to that, the officer, Eric Talley, is somebody that I'm familiar with and have had more than a few conversations with over the years in his role in serving the community, both as a father and as a police officer, in looking after our community, whether it's a sporting event or it's a school event in the Boulder High School, Fairview High School, anything that might be going on there. Eric was very involved. We're going to miss him greatly. If you have a desire to support the activities of those who are considering and honoring Eric, go to the Colorado State Fraternal Board. Let me just bring up some of my focus here. It's the Colorado State Lodge for Fraternal Order of Police and the Boulder County for Injured and Fallen Officers Fund if you want to donate to that and the support of his family. There's also a fund through the Community Foundation of Boulder County. Let me see if I can give you a phone number or an email, a web address for that. You can go to COMFound, that's COMMfound.givecorpse.com to make contributions to that fund. We also have a Colorado Healing Fund, and if you need some support in your own thoughts and feelings about what happened this week in Boulder, call 303-777-7492. That's 303-777-7492 in support of those families and friends of those who lost their lives at the Boulder King Sooper on Broadway and South Boulder Road. You know, we're going to talk about, our theme today is rehab mindset. A rehab mindset is about injury. I have one, have my sling on today. In fact, as I say that, I'm going to take my sling off because I'm at that point where in my rehab, I had therapy this morning with my therapist at ESP Sports Medicine. Dr. Mary Fink was and is there as a support for me, both as a therapist and as a colleague. We've done a number of things together over the years, and she is now helping me, and which is typically I'm referring patients the other way, and I'm now the patient. Well, I'm at a point where I've got range of motion, assisted what they call passive range of motion. So my mindset has to be in my rehab process thinking about passive, which is, it's not easy for me to do. There's a lot of R words I'm having to remember, and one of those is relax. And relaxing is not something, it comes easy for me. I'm always there, you know, supporting and channeling my energy towards motivating the athletes through their rehab and setting their mindset. Now I have to apply it to myself. Well, one of the key tenets to that is don't rush it. Be aware. Think about what you're doing in those moments. So as we go through that today, I want to make sure that we are mindful of our 360 mindset that we have every, the mindset moment we have every Monday. And this Monday was one that's, it's a favorite, but it doesn't always come up as frequently as some others. And that is, quality is not an act. It's a habit. Practice it. Go through it. Be mindful of not rushing things in this case with our rehab mindset, and that's from Aristotle. And I have a backdrop to this quote in the picture. When you go to social media and look up 360 mindset and our mindset moment, you'll see a picture of the Loyola Ramblers from Chicago and their win over the Fighting Illini in Illinois, and that was a shock to a lot of people. Number 1 seed goes down from Loyola Chicago Ramblers, and they have God on their side. The sister that has supported their team for years and years always starts each game during the tournament, probably every game during the season as well that she attends, with a prayer. And not that she has ill will towards the other team, but she's not always complimentary. Her mindset is to share thoughts with the team that God is with them, that they're being blessed. Well, that's where quality is not an act, it's a habit. They habitually practice these behaviors to adapt and adjust and create a pace for themselves that's going to give them the best chance of overcoming their opponent. Well, as I say that, I want to make sure that you understand that in the sports moments that we have in the last few weeks, there's some changes that have been happening, a pace that people have to adjust and adapt to. And one of those individuals that is being made mindful of a pace that they have to be aware of is Urban Meyer. Now, for those of you who follow Colorado State football, Urban Meyer was an offensive coach. I think he was receivers and maybe assistant offensive coordinator during the time that he was here, and then he went on from there to coach at I think it was Ohio State right after that, I believe so, and before he went to Florida. Maybe it was Florida first. I'm not sure, but he's been to some major programs since CSU as a head coach. Well, he's being challenged now. He's coming away from the broadcast booth and the analyst, halftime analyst that he's been doing for the last couple of years. And I asked the question, like, as I'm looking at myself from a rehab standpoint, I have to change my leadership style. I've been asked to lead myself in different ways because I don't have the use of one arm. I have to passively pick my arm up, put it on the counter because it doesn't have the muscle strength, because it's working its range of motion and I have to be aware of that. Well, Urban Meyer, through my metaphor here, is also having to readjust his leadership position because he's now the head coach of the Jaguars, the Jacksonville Jaguars down in Florida. But the Jaguars' historical performance in the last few seasons doesn't give Urban Meyer a lot of leverage. Now, in the draft, he has leverage, and apparently he's gotten some pretty good targets he's looking at to draft, as well as those players who are on, he wants to keep people, let people go, get people on waivers and bring them into the team. He's got a lot of stuff he's doing. Well, he's kind of getting a little whiny about what the league has said, maybe because he hasn't been around the NFL that much. He's not quite aware of all the different nuances of, you can't just go out and start having lunches and dinners with players and wooing them. So he got kind of pulled back on that, and he isn't given the kind of consideration he's thinking he's due. Well, Urban, you're getting paid $12 million a year. Take a breath, relax a little bit, maybe take some homework time and understand exactly the guidelines that you have in front of you before you just start, jumping forward with the programs that you want to put in place at the Jaguars. Now look at quality coach, quality programming. Programmatically, he's done some great things at the college level, but as many college coaches know who go into the NFL, you've got to pace a little bit. When you jump in there as a leader, perhaps you want to take a pause and ask those who are there, ownership perhaps, key people who are in administration at the franchise, exactly what the lay of the land is all about before you just start yammering and jumping into things and thinking that your way is the pathway for success. Well, it has been in the past, but not every aspect and style of what you do is going to fit. So take a moment. Well, maybe like this NHL official who didn't know his mic was on, and he tested the integrity on ice. Well, referee Peel he retires soon, or was he fired? Because right now, because of what he said on an open mic on the ice about how he made a call against the Predators, he did it on purpose. Not exactly a high integrity move, but he did it anyway. So the question I have is, Tim Peel retiring, or is he fired? I think we can pick which one. Well, during that process, in his bogus call, one has to ask the question, how often was integrity part of his modus operandi over the 21 years he was an official? His tenure goes back to 1999 as an NHL official, but his behavior towards the end of his career, which it has ended, he has been let go, if you will. Some call it suspension, but I think the reality is he was forced to accept his retirement. Now, the mechanics of that, you know, you can argue and debate about whether he's actually fired or suspended or he retires. Whatever it is, he's no longer in the league. And he admittedly, because everybody heard it, made a bogus call, and he did it on purpose against the Predators, the Nashville Predators. By the way, if you ever want to go to an NHL hockey match, go to the Predators. Their fans are rabid. They are in a positive way. I'm saying it in a very positive way. They are awesome, awesome fans. Go check them out. It is something to be seen. But Mr. Peel, he had no respect for the Preds. And it's not like it was something as a friend you heard him say, or maybe his behavior indicated he was that way. He came right out and said it, and everybody heard it. I don't think he deserves the respect. Now, he may be in a position with the paperwork, and he's close to retirement anyway. He may still get his retirement plan put in place, but as a person, as an NHL professional after 21 years, I start to question whether his integrity is intact after what he did. So integrity on ice, it's a question. And the NHL came out and made a statement about it. They want to make sure that they ensure the integrity on ice, given Mr. Peel's example. Well, I challenge you, NHL officials, going forward. Why did it take 21 years to examine Mr. Peel's behavior after an overt action on his part? Openly, easily heard, recorded incident of him sharing his lack of integrity and his vibrato that, hey, you know what? I've been here 21 years. I can do what I want. And I'm going to do this towards the Preds. Well, I don't know that it had a consequential impact on the outcome of the game, but if it did, that would make it even more egregious and even more worth the NHL looking at all officials, training processes, off-season time, and what they're doing and maintaining that premise of high integrity on ice and making sure that Mr. Peel's behavior isn't repeated by anybody else who has a similar mindset for officiating that Mr. Peel has. Well, that is about awareness on the ice. Our theme today is rehab mindset, and to have a good mindset about your rehab, like I'm being asked to do. I need to be aware. Like, I need to be aware of where my arm is at. Right now, this is a comfortable position. But when I take it down on its own, this is not a passive move, by the way. But if I use my other hand to help it, that's a passive movement, a range of motion. I need to be aware of when I need to be passive or active. Well, putting on my pants with one hand is a challenging effort. I'm capable of doing it. I've done it for the last 2.5 weeks, almost 3 weeks. Actually, 3 weeks today. But I need to be aware and yet determined in my awareness on when my left arm gets involved, actively involved in putting on my shirt, putting on my pants, buttoning my pants. I want to have high integrity. I do not want to use Mr. Peel as an example of my integrity. So, awareness is also being played out in the Major League Baseball ranks right now. The opening season the season openers is coming up next week. I think maybe even this weekend. And some of that has been looked at from the standpoint of trades. Like Arenado, Nolan was traded. The Rockies don't have him at third base. They may be actually taking some actions with Mr. Story because he has a one-year contract. He's a great player, but they could perhaps utilize, as trades go, to get more talent coming to the plate and to the field if they trade Mr. Story, and his ticket's pretty expensive. So as we are being aware of our capabilities and determined in that awareness, as we talk about today's show theme, it can be also played into things like trades made in Major League Baseball. They're shuffling the deck. Now, I'm not going to be shuffling the deck with two hands. I'm going to take the deck, throw it in the hat, shake it up, pull it out, and then try to put the cards together with one hand. And maybe have my left hand over there just as a guide, because I can do that. But knowing one's capabilities and determined in that awareness, so as it relates to Major League Baseball trades, we want to make sure that as they're shuffling the deck, we're looking at what's going on. Well, the Rockies are kind of in a rebuild. The initial step with that was when Nolan Arenado was traded. They've got good talent on the field. They've got some talent that came with that trade with Nolan. I'm concerned that pitching is now at risk due to the fact that we've had a pitcher that was deemed to be one of the 5 starters is now out. An injury during preseason took him off the mound. It happens when they're throwing that hard with that kind of leverage. You can have shoulder injuries. Well, he has a shoulder injury that may be season-ending. We're not sure yet. I haven't heard. But in addition to money and contracts causing players to be moved and the franchise to make moves towards getting other players, Mr. Story is a consideration, but also looking for pitchers because the Rockies, due to injury, in preseason when players are trying to move up the ranks, their awareness is very high. They're very determined to be on the field as one of the starters, as game day starters on the rotations. Injuries can take their toll. Well, it has for the Rockies, at least at the pitching level. So as we consider that awareness for today's theme and being rehab mindful, we have, it's really interesting. I think after this year's March Madness, which is crazy March Madness. I'm hoping the force is with the teams that have made the Sweet 16. We've got a picture of the Baylor team on the screen right now for those of you who are watching, and for those of you who aren't, Baylor's in the mix. If we were to reshuffle, the commentators and the sports analysts are talking about, hey, if we were to reshuffle the order of play, how would it be different? Well, Baylor would get a number 1, the way they've been playing, and I think Oregon might be up there as well, in addition to Gonzaga, because they're still in the hunt. But there are some number 1s that aren't in the hunt, Illinois being one of them. So how does that reality, that awareness, change our thoughts about how we might shuffle the deck with the NCAA March Madness? Because it is so crazy in looking at who's in there. Well, one might say crazy, not in a negative way, but crazy in, I didn't anticipate the Loyola Ramblers Chicago team making it to the Sweet 16. I had them out after the second round. Well, here they are. They got past Illinois. That's crazy. We've got some other teams that are being blessed by whomever, the force that they are putting out on the court, the hardwood. But Loyola's got their 6th man is the Almighty. So they might say. Others might say just luck. But I say it takes talent to bring the reality of those blessings and of those desires of their prayers to be real. They've made a play. They've got 2 players as freshmen starters 3 years ago were in the NCAA Final Four. Those are 2 young men that have some experience. Their center and that point guard, they know what it's all about. They know how to control their emotions and bring their own force. They create their own force And it is with their teammates. So yes, force be with you, whatever the force might be, whether it's a deity or it's just you on the court bringing it. But for me, I'm wondering in the Sweet 16, will the Zags be able to stay on task, or will they be upset? They are a talented team. There's no doubt about that in their undefeated positioning, both throughout the playoffs now in the final, in the March Madness playoffs, that second season, if you will. But they were undefeated through the regular season. They're on a mission. They've done it before. Not this group, but in the history of the program, they've done it before. They've gone undefeated all the way to the end and winning the NCAA championship. Let's keep a good thought. Cross our fingers. Strive to bring the force to them. If you're a Zags fan, I'm a competition fan. I think the Zags bring to the table some talent that's unbelievable, but they're not. There is a potential they could be beat. It takes the entire coaching staff, bench, and 5 starters to bring all aspects of the game to the table when facing the Zags. Anybody who's had a breath of a chance, didn't make it, but who was giving them some difficulty, no, there is a formula. There is a formula for it, but you've got to execute it for the entire 2 halves of play to make it happen against the Zags. And that's where, whether it's the NCAA or it's Major League Baseball getting ready for the opening of the 2021 season, or it's me in my rehab mindset, we begin with an end in mind. Now I'm going to be talking about my end in mind and sharing that with you so that as we build that mental condition and we consider the environment that influences us or that we influence, that we're making plans considering how our environment is really going to influence us and making sure that we're staying very aware of the environment around us and what plans we're making in those moments. Because look at the NCAA right now, we're in the Sweet 16, and we're going to eventually get to the Elite 8 and then the Final 4. But when you compete for a championship, the mindset is like, I'm not diminishing that pursuit of the championship. I'm referring to it equally in my rehab mindset, but it takes a certain level of strength, mental strength, to complete the exercise. Because look, I'm not used to having the use of only one arm. I'm used to having both arms. And see, if I grab my left hand with my right hand, I'm supposed to be passive, meaning the left arm's supposed to be limp, and it's only my right arm that's bringing it up, bringing it up, bringing it up, bringing it up, like that. And that hurts. I have to get through that. And if I let it go, there is no strength there. That's where I'm at. That's foreign to me. That's like me being defended by somebody who's really putting it on me. And I've got to fight through that mentally and engage myself to continue to push through. I don't want anybody to have to be in a position of healing an injury. Major surgery. I had 7 ties put into this shoulder. They normally put in 4. I've got 4 sites that they, put a suture or put a cut in here and then put a little ocular tube, a laparoscopy scope into my shoulder so they could go in and repair it. I know more than I want to know about the medical process. I'm interested in that. I've got 69 pictures that I can look at to tell me about what happened in my shoulder. Rehab is not a fun place to be. And if you're watching us today, you see a picture of me on the couch with a jacket that goes over my shoulder that pumps cold water through that jacket to cool off and help reduce the swelling. And in that picture, I don't have the surgical bandage on anymore. It was removed, and I was allowing me now to put that coldness on there to give me therapy. Now, I was still on some pain meds, so if you're looking at those pictures, I have kind of a goofy little look on my face. Okay, medically induced, I get it. But I'm sharing with you a personal moment and letting you know that rehab does not always deliver a full recovery. Because and that happens when you don't stay diligent into the process. You don't stay focused on what's essential to get things done. And I'm gonna talk about that in very specific terms here in just a moment, about what that means. But it also, to everything we've talked about so far about what's going on in sports, there's a diligence and an awareness in that diligence that you must take some not concern is not the right word. You got to get after it. You got to take charge of it so that you can control any of the changes that come at you. Like with my movement of my arm, I'm changing in a passive way what's happening to my left arm because I'm controlling it. I have to be thinking about relaxing my left arm. It's passive. My right arm controls it. And bringing it up, bringing it up, bringing it up, going beyond 90 to get all the way to 180. Well, that's a challenge. And that rehab process, if I don't do these things and stay aware with a desire to really be diligent and determined about my capability, I'm not going to get there. Just like my concern in that regard, sharing it with a Zags teammate or coach, if they want to get that undefeated season all the way to the end of the tournament, it takes determination and realizing in a very high aware way, what are your capabilities? And as I say that, I want to be reminding you that there's a personal pace. You can't be in a hurry, and yet you need to be quick in some moments. And then sometimes the pace needs to be pushed in that awareness to drive through. When is the right time for that seasoned point guard with Loyola to take charge? Because he's got 3 seasons, now in his 4th season, back to the NCAA Sweet 16 to know when is the right time for me to charge the basket. Take control in a determined fashion, highly aware, knowing my capabilities, and getting after it. And in those moments, adjusting and adapting to what the defense is doing to me. Pacing yourself so that you can consider an alternative process that might pop up. You're determined to go to the basket and score yourself. But if the defense adjusts, causing you to have to adapt to them, you might have to dish it off. Or maybe even pull it back. I'm doing that in my recovery. So I can fully address and deliver what's necessary for my rehab. Now, I'm going to pause just a moment and let you know that every week on Fridays at 11 o'clock Mountain Standard Time, we share with you here at 360 Performance ideas and insights about how to make your life better. Create methods and strategies that you can take for yourself to be excellent, to strive for excellence. Once we do that live here on Fridays, we then post a podcast of this show onto Spotify, iTunes, Google. All you have to do, if those are your favorite platforms, just type in 360 Performance. Our podcast will pop up, and you can participate, share it with others about the things you heard on the show, or hear it again, listen to it again, to see and hear the detail, or not see, you're going to listen to the details that we share on the show. So once again, we're on Spotify, Apple, and Google, as well as other podcast platforms. Just type in 360 Performance Podcast on your browser, whether it's Google or Apple, whatever it might be, and get involved. Participate with us on those strategies that we bring to you, like today, rehab mindset. If you are going to be facing some surgery later, you're an athlete who's recovering and rehabilitating, maybe it's an old injury that you're having to rework and get through, the principles still are applied. You've got to be aware of what's going on in those rehab moments and breathe through them, like this morning. She's good. Dr. Fink at ESP Sports Medicine is really good, and she reminds me over and over again by her pushing my range of motion, I got to breathe, get a little twinge, got to breathe and be involved in that process so that I am determined to get to those capabilities I was at before I had this injury. My hope is if I do what I'm told, my left side's going to be bionic and my right side's going to be jealous. I'll work on that. We'll get it back. So I'm hoping that with your utilizing the support and the knowledge we share with you through our live shows on Fridays at 11 o'clock Mountain Standard Time, that you take action to listen to our podcast, that you are really enjoying it, and share that with us. Go on to 360mindset.com. That's our website. Share some comments with us. Give us your opinions about what we're doing and how we're doing it. Because right here at KUHS Denver, we are streaming. We're streaming on KUHS Denver every Friday, providing you with the best of what we know at 360 Performance. All right, so there's my shameful commercial plug. Now we're ready to talk about the things that got a rehab mindset. You know, we talked about some of the sports things that are out there and what's happening in the world of sports and being aware. One of the things I want to share with you is you know, we've got all these accoutrements, I'll call them, devices that are in our kitchen, in our office, in our closets, in our bedroom where we put on our clothes. There's all these things we take for granted. Like this morning, I have a watch. I have an Apple Watch. It's got this band with a little, you have to wrap the band over this little stubble, this little metal piece that you got to push it through a hole and then thread it through a place on the watch band. Try doing that with one hand. That's really interesting. I wind up putting the watch band on, then putting my wrist on the top of the table, and then bringing over the watch band over the top. That's a strategy you have to think about. So one of the first things I want you to know regarding a rehab mindset is organizing your closet. Not the whole closet, but every morning, or actually every night, lay the things out you're going to wear the next day. But you got to think about it. In the first few days post-surgery, I'm not wearing button-fly jeans. Heck, I don't even want to have a zipper. But I didn't think about that until I started coming out of my medications and feeling a little bit better. Still had the surgical bandages on, so I wasn't really going to put on a shirt. And thankfully in surgery they put the shirt on you and over the top of your bandages, so you got that going on, but you wear that shirt for a few days. So you got to think about this stuff. You got to organize and make sure it's laid out. You're not going to wear shoes you have to tie. Now, I say that with kind of tongue-in-cheek. Now, if you're single and you've got a special girlfriend or boyfriend that is around, you might want to have them tie your shoes for you. Get that connection going on. But then they might accuse you of being kind of a wussy. Put on some slip-ons. Wear those fuzzy socks. That kind of thing. Because you got like 3 to 4 days worth of just kind of hanging out and not doing much of anything. So you don't want a lot of shoelace stuff going on. I've got my boots that I can slip on pretty easily. I've got socks that I put on. So as you're thinking about your wardrobe, think about those things. It makes it easy to put them on. And even now that I'm 3 weeks into it, got this sweater, pullover, right? First thing you got to remember, put on the bad arm first. So for me, it's the left arm. The left arm goes in first. And when you get the shirt, the sleeve pulled all the way up under your armpit, you want as much material as you can up underneath that armpit as you can. Once you do that, you want to put the bottom of the shirt into your mouth so it stays in place, or you're going to be going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So put that bottom of the shirt, the hem of the shirt in your mouth so you can put the good arm in, and that gets you prepared to pull it over your head. Makes it much easier. Not a lot of bunching, not a lot of gathering of the shirt. So you see, the rehab mindset is about organization. Organizing your clothes in a way that's going to accommodate where am I at in my rehab process. Got to think about it, whole different mindset, because we take it for granted. Heck, I took for granted the flip top on my shampoo bottle. Thankfully, easy to do with one hand. But here's something to remember. I'm not a washcloth person. Now, if you are, great. You're already prepared. But make sure that the washcloth is in a place you can get at with the one hand. So first thing for me, washcloth. And the second thing is, you take the washcloth and you put it on the bad hand. Now, with a shoulder injury, even a few days after the surgery, you're not going to have a lot of, they're telling you, don't stress the shoulder. So that means bring the elbow close to your side so you can bend a little bit this arm. That's not going to engage the shoulder. Put the washcloth over your hand and then put the soap in it. Then put the soap down, then pick up the washcloth. You see what I'm doing here? Oversimplifying it, but guess what? Your brain isn't thinking that way. The mindset for rehab doesn't think in those very calculated, paced out steps to just wash your armpit. That's my goal. That's my objective, is to just get the soap on the washcloth so I can wash my armpit. Now, here's the other thing. The right armpit is out there going, hey, hello, I'm here. Well, it's hard to, okay, so you've got the washcloth in your left hand. You've got to bring that right armpit to the left hand and then move it like that to swipe it through. It's a process, people. But it takes thinking and awareness and reinforcing you are capable if you engage your brain to think through the process that you're highly aware of. Look, we've talked routinely on almost every show about your 5 senses. It's really foundational. When we have the capability of using all of our body parts, we don't think about it. We still think about the 5 senses and engaging all of both hands, both legs, our eyes, rotating our neck, and even all of these things become personified and limited in their capability because this left arm is not the way it should be. So use your 5 senses to engage your awareness, pace yourself, be aware of everything around you, and as you're thinking through it, so that you can really help your rehab process. And it starts with being mindful about being organized, that awareness that matches up with your capabilities. Well, now your capabilities are limited because that left hand is not where it always should be, but you can utilize it as the rehab process helps you with range of motion get to where you need to go. All right, so I'm going to take a bit of a pause just for a sec and just think about this for a minute. Where are all my stuff at? Do I need to use deodorant? Well, no. Body sprays. Bed Bath & Beyond is a great place for these wonderful little body sprays that makes it easy with one hand to put them on. That will be a kind of a short-term substitute for deodorants. You're not going to wind up being around a lot of people in today's world with the pandemic. Kind of helps you out with the surgical procedure that you have to go through. You're seeing people on Zoom in many cases, not a lot of personal visits. And if you do have a personal visit, they're not going to be all that long that you're going to be having to rely on deodorant to take care of the uncomfortable moments that you're sweating through. Like a job interview would be very, very not fun right now if you had to go through a job interview. But nowadays, even those are virtual. In fact, I think even the interview to get the job, like being offered a job, may even be virtual these days. It's amazing what things have been changing. So as I think about that process, I want to take you to the next step of the rehab mindset kind of thought process I have for everybody. It's in the interaction with those that are there to support you. And I've gone through some transitions with this. Look, I find it almost like a puzzle to put things together. And so when I think about that, I think about the resources to help me manage my mindset. Boredom can set in. There's a certain level of frustration that also sets in because you can't do the things you used to do with the same amount of strength and agility that you used to do. You have to be aware of that. So things like reaching for the remote control, just eating, helping with setting the table, There are things that don't remove yourself from doing those, but make sure everybody around you knows you will take a little bit more time getting those things done. Like, for example, taking plates out of the cabinet, 2 plates at a time is about all this arm can manage, because if it's up here, dexterity becomes a problem. It amazes me how much I use my left arm to balance or to adjust what's in my right hand. So take your time and also create stackable moments or have multiple steps, like plates on the table, then go back and get the silverware instead of plates and then stack the silverware on top, because it may not work as well as you'd like it to work. So take your time and plan things out when you're participating in these things. The point I'm making here is make others aware of what you're doing so that they understand what your needs are and when to support. One of the biggest mistakes I made was not sharing what I want to do and how I want to do it, because the people that are there wanting to help you feel left out. That's my warning. Don't let them feel left out. So part of your rehab mindset is be aware of the other people around you, and don't make the mistakes I did. I didn't communicate with them, and they got a little irritated with me. They wanted to help. They wanted to be there in support of me, and they weren't, because I didn't let them in. I didn't communicate. I didn't share with them, hey, I'm solving the puzzle for myself. I'm putting things together that will help me do my best in being aware, utilizing my capabilities in a very determined, self-fulfilling way. Now, there are moments where I need help. Like the other day, I washed my favorite pajama pants, and there's a tie in the front. The elastic isn't tight enough, and so I need to have the tie tied. Well, here's what I did. I decided, I gave it to my partner. I said, tie these up for me, and then I'll put them on, because the elastic will stretch and I'll be able to get them on. I also learned something from that now at this level of my rehab, with my left arm fairly capable, I can put those pajama pants on the countertop, have my left hand there, and I can tie them up myself and then put them on. Now, I couldn't do that in the early days because my arm I didn't have the range of motion in my arm. So there are stages of progression that your rehab will allow you to then adjust what you were doing and get more participation in that. There is also times when, like for example, I have that water jacket now. Well, I can fill it myself if I take time and think about what I'm doing. Now, that again means communicate with those who are there to help you, and listen to your doctor about engaging that shoulder. So you want to think about, or whatever body part it is, it could be a leg, engaging your legs and what your range of motion is and what you need to be doing, and thinking through the steps. So first point is communicate with those who are helping you what you know you can do, and make sure it aligns with what the doctors and the physical therapists have been telling you. Terms like passive activity versus engaged activity. Passive activity means that you're using the other parts of your body to support the one that's injured. This is just limp. I'm actually holding on to my left hand and pulling it up. That's a passive activity. My right hand is doing all the work. So I can push that scar tissue in my shoulder to be flexible and limber. And I can eventually, hopefully, I know I have to wait, I have to be patient, which is my next segue, is being patient. So we've got that awareness piece, but there's a certain amount of patience that's involved here. Now, in the first couple of weeks, my patience was being tested, and I was sharing my disgust with being patient with others, and I didn't know I was. It was the way I was walking around the room, the way I was behaving in the office. It was transparent, and yet it wasn't transparent to me. I wasn't aware of that. So my tone of voice. So take your time, listen to what you're saying and how you're saying it when you're on the phone with people, because getting back into your business activities, being on the phone having conversations, how you're moving around people will be, it will scream your lack of patience in the way you demonstrate your movement. So just take your time. I have, more times than I care to think about, walked through a doorway as though I didn't have this big sling on, because my brain is thinking, I want to just go through the door, and I'll knock into a door jamb. I'll knock the end. You know, my sling will catch me up. So be aware of that and be prudent of that. Now, as I say that, I'm going to come back to the organizational stuff. You want to go outside, right? The weather, there's still winter weather in many parts of our country. And Colorado's no exception. So it gets a little cold and I need to wear a jacket. Well, put the jacket on and then go put the sling on. You don't have to worry about finding a jacket that's big enough to go over the sling. So I'm very much into layers, and that's kind of a watchword in Colorado anyway. Put layers on, because you can always peel the layers back as the sunshine comes out. So I've learned to, like this sweater, I've got a shirt underneath that. Today's a nice day, it's in the 40s, probably wind up being in the 60s today. But this morning, when I went to therapy, it was in the high 30s. So I wore this, but I have a sweater that's big enough I can put over the top and zip it up to just underneath the arm. So think about your wardrobe and what things can be worn. I love hoodies. Put hoodies on and then put my sling on. That way I don't have to worry about a jacket over the top. Now, it gets a little snug in the sling, but that's okay. That feels pretty good because there's plenty of room in that sling to take care of it. So the next point I'm making to you after being aware is being organized. You know, the awareness should give you the sensitivity about where you should be organized, but being organized with not only your wardrobe from your closet, putting that on in the morning, but then what you're going to wear during the day, and making sure that fits for you. I've also been aware of my desk chair, how high it is, because now I can, at this stage of my rehab, I can put my arm on my desk and I can do typing with my keyboard. But be sensitive to if you have a shoulder injury or an arm injury in the turning, when you turn, because that could put tension on the shoulder in particular. So stay in place. You know, work on typing for one period, and then take the arm down, and then get your earbuds in, and then do your phone calls. Different postures, different movements. I never thought I'd get this technical with things I've taken for granted. But if you truly want to build a rehab mindset and not have anything that jeopardizes the healing process in that arm or that shoulder, you'll take my words and heed them and get this done right. Because I don't want to have to do it again. I want to be bionic. I want the left arm getting some envy from the right arm that we're bionic because we did it right. So as I say that, let me take a brief moment and talk a little bit about the next couple of weeks. We wanted to get Nikki Burnett in here with us to talk about nutrition and the rehab process. Well, we're going to have her in with us next week, and then the weeks to follow, we're going to renew our connection with Rhonda Blanford Green from CHASA and talk to us a little bit about high school sports and activities and how we are adjusting, because there's new changes. The more vaccinations that happen, the more secure sites are, and the state of Colorado is no exception. You know, if you watch the meters in the local places, like when I go to the health club that I can work my lower body and fight the boredom, I see the little meter. You know, we're kind of in the blue, I think, is where we're at right now. We're still wearing masks. People are inoculated. And hopefully you're following the science. And for those people that are speaking half-truths out of their mouths about, well, I was inoculated, so I'm immune. No, you're not immune. You could be a carrier. You're not going to have the suffering of the disease and have to be hospitalized, but just because you had a vaccination and the inoculation doesn't mean you're immune. You could be a carrier of COVID and pass it to somebody else, so wear a mask. Respect the 6 foot or 3 foot if you're in the schools. or indoors. Respect the 6-foot spacing. Wash your hands. Be conscientious about being aware of your environment and your surroundings. So we're going to have Rhonda Blanford Green on to talk about how the high school system is adapting and adjusting so they can deliver their capabilities in a determined way. Because we're going to be, we're going to be coming into tournament time. We've got basketball tournaments coming up. We've got wrestling that's happening. If it hasn't already happened, it may have already happened. But Rhonda Blanford Green, she's our expert. She's the executive director of CHASA, and will give us some insights about that. You're going to hear more from me about the progress of my shoulder. I've got minimum 8 weeks in the sling. I've got 6 weeks left. So I'll get a yay or nay about getting rid of the sling on April 16th from my surgeon. I hope it's a yay, so I can move to the next step of utilizing my arm and shoulder in a more controlled way. And then throughout that, the 3 months after that, so I'm going into May, June, and July, I may not be able to see the swing of a golf club until August, which is just, I can't tell you in enough words how, how challenging that is to me. But I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it because, as I said, I'm going to be bionic on the left side and have a right side be jealous of how great we recovered from that. So if you have any questions for me, check out 360mindset.com and give us your questions about what we've said today about the rehab mindset and working through being aware and determined that you're going to bring your capabilities forward with that awareness, but do what you're told. You've got to be patient. One of the things of our theme this week for the rehab mindset that we talked about earlier is making sure you pace yourself, you take your time during your rehab, and doing what you're told. And one of the things that I've discovered in some very simple activities, my partner, she loves puzzles. She's really, really good at them. I mean, like 1,000-piece plus puzzles, very intricate puzzles. And I have a puzzle I'm doing right now. And I'm not attacking it every day, so I'm taking it slowly. But it's dips of ice cream of different colors. So I did get all the edges to do the framing, got all that done. But this is a tough puzzle. But it's great for the patience. It's great for my pace. It calms me down. She is really great recommendation from her, but she's the champion. She is like top drawer puzzle person. So find pieces of things to process through. One of the things we talk about is performance results on the show. One of the 4 steps. Remember, we've got our mindset, our skills, our mental conditioning, and then our performance results that we talk about. Well, this is the performance results area that will help you develop a pace for your rehab mindset. You need to utilize things like puzzles. However many puzzle pieces you can pick, 60, 50, 100, whatever it is, or 1,000. But it will help dramatically in managing your mindset, getting it channeled into a place that you're going to help beat the boredom, but also give you a greater sense of detail in your awareness efforts, because you need those awareness efforts to set up a rehab mindset that helps you to control your brain. Because look, in the next few weeks, my arm's going to feel pretty good, and I'm going to be tempted, without knowing it, to move a certain way that I shouldn't, or to put resistance on my shoulder that I shouldn't. Too premature. I need to continue to do range of motion, do my exercises on flexion and extension and rotation in a passive, controlled way. But if I let my mindset slip out and put some resistance on it, I could jeopardize one of those 7 ties. I don't want to go there. I've had athletes that I've worked with that have done that. They didn't listen to me and control the pace and make sure they don't rush their rehab. So as I say that, I want to swing back. We've got about 5 minutes left in the show, and I want to come back and close with what we opened with and share some appreciation and some gratitude. Typically, I open the show with gratitude up front, but I want to share gratitude towards the end so that it sticks with you. As I said, our theme is rehab mindset, and that's being grateful for yourself, being grateful for the power of the science and human body and what it can do, and how through its mental focus can activate the chemistry that moves the muscles and recharges the nerves and builds stronger bones and makes sure that it all works together. Because with this injury, I get a stiff neck because my neck is compensating for what's going on in my shoulder, or my scapula, which wasn't injured, but it's part of the shoulder. It's compensating for the shoulder and making sure that that rotator cuff heals properly. Be aware and be grateful for what you have, and challenge it with great awareness so that you are determined to deliver your capabilities at the level they were or better before the injury. The other piece of gratitude I want to share with you is being grateful for community. The community that surrounds you, that helps you strive for the things that are unique to you, that define who you are. I've got a great team around me medically, with Dr. Vidal and his staff, Becky and Haley and Stacy and Charlotte, all of those who have helped me get to this point and will continue to be available when I need them. But I've also got my partner at home. I've got my family members. I've got colleagues that give me their jokes and their jabs about, one-armed bandit, the fugitive joke, the one-armed man who killed Dr. Collins's wife, all those kind of things. All those come out of the woodwork. But it puts a smile on my face. It distracts me. But then there's the gratitude about community related to tragedy and the gratefulness of people that remind us of how wonderful it is to live in that community, because they come and they memorialize those who have left us, tragically left us. And they have the flowers and the memorials and the cards and the good wishes and the smiles through the tears that allow them to say what they need to say in sharing their gratefulness for being here and reminding us of how wonderful you were when you were here. Gratitude like that is important and essential to moving us forward and moving us down the road a little bit. But I also want to make sure that we remind ourselves that we have to be grateful for systems that look at and focus on making necessary changes in our behavior, in recognizing when a troubled person is walking through the door, and that maybe we can get in front of them and say a kind word and recognize them for who they are before they pull out an automatic weapon, or even think about bringing an automatic weapon to this place of business. Are we aware enough? Are we determined to identify who those are that are in trouble and need some support before they resort to a mindset that needs rehabilitation that causes them to pull out a weapon and kill 10 people? I want to make sure that we put systems in place that are focused on the gratitude, focused on the support, so that we don't let someone at the young age of 21 go to a place that they can't return from, and they leave behind them 10 people who will not return. That's unfortunate. The good wishes, the gratitude, the gratefulness, the memorializing is all wonderful and essential. But I'm hoping that we create things through this pain and agony that is going to benefit everyone going forward, and catch those before they do what they've done to hurt others, not allowing us to have them with us anymore. That's what therapy is all about. That's what rehab is all about. Looking at the injury before it becomes traumatic and irreconcilable. Let's rehabilitate our mindset in more ways than just a shoulder surgery. Hey, it's been great to have you with me. Every Friday at 11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, 360 Performance brings you strategies and methods to help you heal and be well. Take care. Thanks for being with me. Have a great day today.